Welcome to Beyond the Chutes is presented by Parasite Systems. I'm your host, Doug Simcox, and I hope that you're having a great day wherever you might be and whoever you might be spending the day with. I hope that you are staying safe. Today I'm recording in Taylorsville, Kentucky. Beautiful spring day, and I'm joined today with our co-host, Mr. Sam Swearingen. Sam, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Doug. How are you?
I am good. Today, Sam and I are riding for the brand, and joining us on the phone today is pro rodeo cowboy, Mr. Alan Coleman. Welcome, Alan, to BTC.
Well, thank you.
Good to have you on with us. So you are living in Colfax, Indiana, which sounds like just a little bit north of Indianapolis?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about. We're going to get into all of your officiating. My goodness, you've been officiating professional rodeo. I show in 1985. You officiated your first IFR in Oklahoma, and you've been busy with that. I know here of late in this last several years. But take us all the way back to the beginning. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Franklin, Kentucky. And I lived in Kentucky till I was 4, 3 different places. Mm-hmm. My daddy farmed. Then he moved to Nashville, actually Madison, Tennessee, a little suburb north of Nashville. And when I was about 4 or 5, and then we lived there for about 3 years. Then we moved to Florida. We lived in Florida for 3 years. Then he came back to Nashville, and we came back to Nashville. We moved to Goodlettsville, and we got some horses. And my brothers and me, we started going to little horse shows and stuff around the house. And that's where I got started.
So how old were you when you got the horses and you started horse showing?
Oh, I was about 12, 13.
Okay. And what kind of horse shows were you doing?
Oh, we started out doing just little old saddle clubs around the house there. There used to be a bunch of them there in Middle Tennessee. We started out doing that, competing in, barrel racing, pole bending, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I always kind of liked rodeo. It wasn't on TV much. The National Finals, last 2 rounds would be on Wide World of Sports. That's about the only rodeo on TV back then.
Yeah.
But I was real hooked on it, and I got interested in calf roping. And for some reason, roping kind of got popular around Middle Tennessee back in the mid-'60s. So at the horse shows, we'd stand around and rope a bale of hay, bet on it, who catch it the most 5 times for a quarter. Well, I'm competitive, so I'd go home and practice. And I got pretty proficient roping a dummy. I read a deal by Dean Oliver who said that you needed to rope it 30 minutes a day. So he said rope it 30 minutes a day. I roped it 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
So I got pretty proficient at it. I had me an old horse I was riding in some of them horse shows. That was an old ranch horse. You could rope on him. You couldn't rope out of a box, but you could rope out in a pasture on him. Mm-hmm. So I switched him over and made me a calf horse out of it. Taught him how to come out of the box. And nobody in Middle Tennessee, there was a few guys around there that roped decent. No big names back in them days. And so I learned out of Toots Mansfield how to rope calves. It's a book that Western Horseman used to put out back in the 60s. Mm-hmm. I learned how to rope out of that book.
Really?
And for 3 years, I dominated the Southeast. Middle Tennessee, East Tennessee, North Alabama, and Southern Kentucky at the little horse show ropings and open ropings. Because I could rope all day long in 11, 12, 13 seconds, but my daddy made me rope 100 calves every day when I came home from school.
What? Now, wait a minute. Let me back up. 100 calves you roped every
100 calves a day.
Oh, my goodness. And all the way. Now, wait a minute. Now, let me just make sure for our listeners that we are super clear on this. So every calf, 100 head, every calf you backed in the box, got in position, had your picking string in your mouth, you roped them and you tied them. 100 calves a day.
100 calves a day.
Holy
I,
cow.
I bet you the price of beef wasn't what it is today.
Oh no, no. Well, and I'm
That's
gonna be
great.
honest with you. When I was roping 100 calves a day, a friend of mine made fun of me at a little open rodeo in front of my daddy one night, and he didn't know it was my daddy. So my daddy said, "You will beat that fella." So within the next 2 weeks, he scrambled around and got me 6 horses. We didn't buy any of them. He borrowed them, leased them, whatever. And then he sent me to him and his business partner's farm. They had 75 black baldy calves, and I cut off every calf that was small enough to tie down and brought them home. That's where I got the calves, and that's where I got the horses.
Wow. Oh, wow.
But of course, calves were $45 a piece back then.
Yeah. Which still mid 60s is a lot of money.
Well, yeah, I mean, if people don't understand, when I grew up, you could buy a practice horse for $250, $350.
Mm-hmm.
There was such a thing. Horse that was not good for nothing but practicing, run a bunch of calves on him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rodeo horses cost from $500 to $750, and then the good ones were $1,000 to $2,000. That was it. You know, which was a lot of money back in those days, but not comparatively today. It's unbelievable.
So,
you know,
yeah. So of these 6 horses your dad got around for you, that he was able to locate for you, that you worked on all 6 of them. Were these broke trained calf roping horses specifically?
Yeah, they were all roping horses when he brought them home.
Okay.
Well, I take it back. One of the horses I roped, and the one that was probably my predominant practice horse for years, was a horse that I had showed in Western Pleasure for 2 years. He was a broke SOB.
Yeah.
Undefeated as a 4-year-old, and I was going to sell him and buy me a practice horse. And one day I just backed him in the box and went to running calves on him. That was the only training he ever had.
Really? So, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because you had talked about earlier, just a moment ago, you talked about teaching a horse, training a horse how to back in a box, taught him to come out of the box and that sort of thing. And had you gotten any help in how would you even approach the training? Or was that done out of the book too?
Well, no. I worked for a horse trainer for a couple of years, and it's kind of funny. People won't believe it. I worked for a Western Pleasure horse trainer. And what I learned from him, I applied to these roping horses, and it works. You know, the methods to do something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't a really good horse trainer at that time. If I had been, the bay horse that I used for a practice horse could have been one of the best horses that ever lived, but I wasn't smart enough to keep him that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And when we talk about the skills of the horse, Alan, scoring and sliding on his back, like, hind end to get set to after you rope, a Western Pleasure horse had that disposition, had those skills.
Well, the man I worked for told me something, and I think Sam will agree with me. If you break a horse, then train him, you can do anything you want to on him.
Okay.
Today, they don't break them. They train them.
Okay.
So they're only good for one thing.
I see.
This bay horse, like I said, he was undefeated on the racetrack. And then I turned around and won a Western Pleasure class on him an hour later.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Me and Bobby Beard needed a bulldogging horse one time. My bulldogging horse got hurt. We just put him in there and whipped him by 4 or 5 steers and hauled him for 2 weeks.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
And won money on him.
Okay.
I mean, you could do anything. You could do a horseback on this horse because he was broke.
Because he was a broke. You can do anything on a broke horse.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That makes sense. Of these 6 horses that your dad got for you that were practice horses, how many did you haul then in competition?
He found me a horse that they won the world on in 1953. This was like 69 or 70. This horse was 20 years old or older. Back then, that was old.
Wow.
He was the one I hauled, and he really made me a roper because, you know, he was a really good horse, but he was old.
Mm-hmm.
And I roped on him. And then flash forward, 1971, Bobby Rowe, who ran Longhorn Rodeo,
Yep.
was like second daddy to me. His son Billy, oldest boy Billy, and me were best friends. He lived about 5 miles from me, running Longhorn for Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted me to go off to work for him, Longhorn, that fall. So my daddy said, yeah, you ain't ever going to be able to beat them guys unless you go rope with them.
Okay.
So I went to work for Bobby Rowe in 1971. First rodeo of the year was Monroe, Louisiana, which was at the time was probably the biggest rodeo in the IRA.
Mm-hmm.
How I got up Sunday, I have no idea. But I was up Sunday, and Bobby arranged for me to ride Bud Grant's horse because my horse was too old to take on the road. Anyway, come Sunday, Bud's horse is crippled. I can't ride him. So I got to find me something to ride. And there was one guy there, is ironic, and don't take this wrong because this guy's one of my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
But still today. But he was there, the one that made fun of me in front of my daddy.
Oh.
And I said, I'll just ride his horse. So I walked up to him and asked him if I could ride his horse. And he was with Broadus Gravitt and Charlie Lowry, who were like, you know, you're an 18-year-old kid. They're like gods to you.
Okay.
You know. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I wouldn't even speak to them, but I asked him to ride the horse. And he told me I didn't have no business being there. I didn't need to be there. He wouldn't waste a run on his horse to let me ride him. So I just turned around and walked off.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Broadus and Charlie came after me. They stopped me, asked me what was going on. I told them the deal. I said, he's right. I probably ain't got no business being here, but the only way I can rope with you guys was come and do it. Mm-hmm. Well, Charlie, he let me ride old Roper, and I think I won 8th at Monroe on his horse. And then the rest of that fall, I didn't have any problem getting mounted. Broadus taught me how to tie right because, like I said, I tied how I learned out of that book. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It worked, but it wasn't the proper way to do it, you know, or the fastest way. Broadus taught me how to tie. Those guys would take me over to the stockyards, and we'd tie the calves that weren't in the draw that Longhorn was hauling with them during the week. And I thanked Tom Walker one time for doing that, and he said, thank me, you need to thank Bobby Rowe. He made us take you. I didn't know that for years that, you know, Bobby had done that for me. Yeah. But anyway, that fall I went and bought Lester from Ronnie Hilton, little bay horse. I give a fortune for him at the time. Everybody thought I was crazy, but that horse made me.
And what did you pay for him? Do you remember?
I paid $1,500 for him in 1971.
1971. And how old were you in 1971?
1920.
Okay. And this is Longhorn. This is your first professional rodeo when you went to Monroe, Louisiana. This was your
no. That's not the first one I ever went to.
Okay.
I mean, I went to Nashville when they had the weekly series. I went to Knoxville a couple times. I'd been to a few of the Longhorn rodeos, but I mean, I couldn't beat nobody if you'd had him tied to a post.
Yeah. Okay. So in 1971, 19 years of age, you buy Lester for $1,500. And were you doing after you made a catch? Were you bailing off left side or right side back then?
I got off the right most of the time.
And that was kind of unusual at that time?
Yeah, it's like when Charlie asked me how I like to rope, I told him I like to reach under the neck and get off the right. He said, you'll get along good with my horse because a lot of guys were still getting off the left end. And for years, I got off the left. If it was like when I went to Florida to those rodeos, and I don't mean this derogatory, but they were so easy, I got off the left.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd still, win everywhere I went.
And what is the advantage of getting off the left and the disadvantage of getting off the left? Your right-hand roper, right? Your right-hand roper.
Yeah, you have to go back over the horse. You know what I'm saying? You rope out to the right, then you have to pull your slack and then get off the other side and go under the rope to flank him. Or if you get off the right, you're already over there. You pull your slack, weight. Of course, you have to realize too, back in my day, we didn't run off the horses like they do now.
What do you
We
mean?
got off the right, it's like got off the left. You tagged up, hung in that stirrup, horse stopped, then you left. So getting off the right wasn't a whole lot quicker. It just saved you from going under the rope.
Okay. And no disadvantages to getting off on the right-hand side? I mean, that it all fit in the flow?
For years, everybody said it ruined the horses. You know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'll throw this in there, a little history. You know why people get on the left of horses?
No, I don't know that I know.
People used to carry swords on their left side.
Okay.
And they couldn't throw that leg over the horse, so they had to get on the left to throw the leg that didn't have a sword hanging down beside it on.
Okay.
That's where getting on the left started.
Okay. That's what started the tradition. So we've always said, well, that's the correct side. The left side's always the proper side to get on. But
back in those days, those horses weren't trained for you to get off the right per se. So a lot of times it did get them to ducking, messing them up if you wasn't careful. But by the mid 70s, you hardly ever saw anybody get off the left anymore.
Really? Okay. So you buy Lester and you put him on the road, 1971. Pick us up from there.
Well, I put him on the road 72. I
72. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he paid my way.
Enough mount money is what you're by paying your way.
Oh, is that what that means? Okay. So
yeah, especially at the Longhorn rodeos, guys fly in just to ride Lester. They didn't have to bring a horse. Yeah. Because Sam's a little younger than me. Now his brother Mike could tell you. Hell, everybody that could rode Lester at the big rodeos. I won more money off of him than I could win myself.
I see. I see. Okay.
So 72, he paid my way. Then 73, I got to winning a lot more and started making the finals, you know.
And when you say the finals, you were riding predominantly the IPRA or only the IPRA?
Well, back then you couldn't be in but one.
Right.
I was in the IPRA then, predominantly.
Yeah.
And like I said, I learned, and I still, the first 2-3 times I went to the IFR, I was just a good, consistent roper. I wasn't what they call a wolf. If that terminology is correct. I get your money, but I wasn't going to tie calves in 7 and 8 very often. And then in 1975, Dexter Bailey needed my horse. He was trying to win the world, and his horse was crippled. So I went and lived with Dexter for 6 months. He won the world that year riding my horse.
Really? Okay.
And Dexter taught me so much that it's unbelievable. Now, Sam remembers Dexter, but Dexter was a nut. But that man could rope and knew how to win.
Okay, so let me back up here. A couple things. Dexter Bailey need the horse. He wins the IPRA World Championship. Yeah. Okay. On your horse, you're living with him. What are some of the Dexter stories you could share with us? Remember, this is a family show.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be very careful here.
Okay.
But Dexter and I, I'll tell you a funny story about Dexter. Dexter was kind of like my son Sean. He wanted to win first or nothing. So we go to Fort Pierce, Florida. He's never been to a rodeo in Florida before. We get down there, and there's a 13 winning the calf rope. And Dexter and me sitting there watching the slack Sunday morning. Dexter said, it's hard to be 6 here, but a man could dang sure be 7. I thought, why, Dexter? What's the point?
What's the point?
He says, just show these Florida crackers how to rope.
Okay.
So anyway, they drawed the calves, and I had one that had got up that morning. He'd try the tie. Dexter, he had a good one. Well, Dexter, he rided old Lester, and he jerked the calf down, had a little trouble getting him up, and he's like 8, 7, 8, 8. I don't know. He's winning the rodeo by 5 seconds.
Okay.
And he's madder than a wet hen because he wasn't 7. So he grabs me by the shirt and tells me to do this, put a wrap and a hooey on him, tie 1 and 7, show these Florida crackers how to rope. I thought, Dexter, you lost your mind. So I go out there and I just do what I'm supposed to do, and I ended up tying him in 9-1. I wasn't trying to beat Dexter. I was just trying to beat that 13
Okay.
to win second.
Yeah.
Well, Dexter, he grabs me after it's over. He said, if you'd have done what I told you, you'd have won first. I said, Dexter, if I'd done what you told me, I'd have beat you.
Right. Right.
Good thinking. I need the points worse than you do.
Oh,
But then one time we were years later, the next year, me and him were both trying to win the world. And he went to Tupelo, Mississippi on Wednesday. I was up Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
He calls me Thursday morning at my house. I hadn't left yet. Told me not to bother going to Tupelo, just send my fees and go on down to Texarkana because I can't win nothing. He was 8-2 and Tom Walker was 8-9, and I got the worst on him because I was the first roper the second night and one calf slept, and they hadn't tied him in 20 all year.
Right.
So that was the best thing he did for me. Calvin Greeley was living with me then. Calvin was probably the smartest roper I ever knew. We went out there that morning, run 85 calves before we went to Tupelo.
Holy cow.
Practicing for that one calf that I knew I had drawed.
Yeah.
I tied him in 8-1.
In Tupelo. The one that hadn't been tied in 20 seconds all year long.
Yeah.
Okay.
To Dexter's dying day, he swears I ran the wrong calf. He saw my son at Tulsa one year when Sean was about 14, 15. He said, you've heard the story.
Yeah.
Your daddy run the wrong calf at Tupelo, didn't he? He said, Mr. Dexter, he says he ran the right one. He lies to you too, boy.
That's
But,
excellent.
he was something else. But like I said, the greatest thing he ever told me, and my son lives by it, if you can't be 7 in the practice pen, you're not going to be 7 at a rodeo. I'd never thought about it. And he told me, he said, that's the difference between Okies and Texans and everybody else. They practice being 7. We practice being 10 or 11, then go to rodeo and try to be 7.
I see.
They practiced it where it was natural for them.
Okay.
So I went home and changed the way I practiced. I still roped 100 a day, but I didn't rope 100 in a row. I'd run 10, try to be 7, 9 times. Let somebody else rope, come back and run 10 more and try to be 7. Well, that next year, I'm a wolf.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tying calves like everybody else, fast.
Okay.
And I almost won the world. I drawed bad at the finals. Hey, that's part of it. Dexter had some good ones. He beat me. No hard feelings. It wouldn't have been there if it hadn't been for him. But, what I'm saying, I had never thought about that. It's not geography.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way, the mindset.
Mindset. Exactly.
Sam's from Pennsylvania, New York. Those kids up there, a 12 is just as good as a 7 in high school to them. Mm-hmm. Because there's not nobody up there going to tie 1-7 at that age. Well, them kids in South Texas and Oklahoma, them high school kids can tie calves in 7. They learn to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the difference.
It's a different world out there. And when you go, it's a different world out there. Well, since we've been taking the boys down there, it has opened my eyes up immensely. And what the competition, and up here, somebody will do something wrong and then you'll see them just give up and quit. There's no quit down there. If you do something wrong, you hustle through it to try to, when it's going right, you're hustling. That's the mindset.
Those kids down there, not all of them. There's just as many Gunsels in Texas or more than anywhere, but they're also 500 to 1,000 of them kids that can rope with anybody when they're in high school. Mm-hmm. Because they are taught that. It's like Sam said, it's their mindset. They're taught that. And that crazy kid of mine, that's the way he grew up. He grew up with that mindset.
So So let's dig a little bit deeper into the mindset. And Sam and I talk about this quite frequently. Certainly, practicing perfect. What I mean by that is if you can't time in 7 in the practice pen, as you had said, you aren't going to time in 7 in the rodeo, any rodeo you go to. So practicing perfect, practicing to win. But let's talk a little bit about the mindset. You enter a rodeo, you start thinking about the rodeo. Do you visualize the run?
To a point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be honest with you, I get over by myself and I would say calf rope, calf rope, calf rope, calf rope, calf rope, calf rope, rack the box, go rope. I never heard nobody holler at me. I never heard nothing. I'm kind of like in a zone.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it so much, you just do it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know what you're doing half the time. You just do it.
Mm-hmm. Was there, when you backed in the box, how did you quiet yourself? How did you get into that super zone? I know you said calf rope, calf rope, calf rope. You're on the horse. Let's say you have an opportunity to rope and win. I mean, the pressure's on. You've got guys standing around. They've been roping low 9s, high 8s. What's the mindset as you ride into that box, and how do you quiet yourself?
My mindset was, and I might have been different from a lot of people, get him roped
Mm-hmm.
as quick as I can.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got on my mind is getting him roped. I ain't worried about the rest of it because I tied so many calves, I could do it blindfolded. Matter of fact, I tied one in the dark at Murfreesboro, Tennessee one year when the lights went out. Blew Bruce Lurkey's mind. He was there.
Okay. So groundwork, right, is what you're describing. When you run down the rope, get off the horse, you dismount, run down the rope, flank the calf, get him on his side, pig and string comes out. You step us through that whole tying process. And, yeah, the mindset even there, the automatic muscle memory that you have.
Yeah. You can only tie a calf as fast as you're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
It don't matter how fast, how much you think you can do it, how much you want to do it. It has to become muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do it till that's your normal speed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people don't understand. That's why you see so many guys mess up when they get to a rodeo because they don't go for broke at home and learn to tie that fast normally, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I mean, it's like my son Sean. He was not able to rope 100 calves a day because of his hip injury. But he flanked and tied calves for hours upon hours from the time he was 14, 15 years old, till it became, like he tell you, when he set the arena record at the finals, when they interviewed him, he said, hell, I roped the calf, bailed off, blacked out, and went back to my horse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you have to think about it, you're going to have to slow down because you can't think about it as fast as you can actually do it if you work at it enough.
You bet. And when he tied, and the arena record still stands today for the IFR, I believe it's 7.4 seconds. And that's from the release of the calf to him throwing his hands up in the air after he's finished tying this calf.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a question for you, Alan. What arena was that in?
That was at the fairgrounds.
At the fairgrounds. So a big arena, too. Was not in the Marriott where it's...
Wait a minute. Yeah, we were back at the fairgrounds then.
Okay.
Because he went to the Ford Center, too.
Yeah, and that would have been a lot smaller arena than the fairgrounds.
But wait a minute. When he set the arena record, that was 5 years after he won the world.
Yeah, it was
still been in the Ford Center. Yeah.
In the Ford Center.
So we didn't move again until we went to Guthrie.
That was IFR 40, just for you guys. That was IFR 40, which meant 2010. So you're right. He won the world championship in 2005, right?
Yeah.
So
because that was the year he kind of came back with the Malachi, that horse he had. He won the Port Horse Congress that fall.
Oh, we did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll tell you a funny story about that. He was 9-1 first round, won third, 8-5 the second round, won first. He's high man back going into the third round. That was back when they had 100 guys in and it wasn't sanctioned by the IRA. It was just a big open rope.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked him while he's sitting there waiting to rope his short go calf how fast he had to be, and he looked up the scoreboard and said, "Looks like I got to be 7.6." The guy said, "You want to win the average or you want to win the go round?" He said, "I'm high man back. If I win the round, I'll win the average."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He had 13.5 to win the saddle, bronze, and the whole bit. He was 7.8 and mad for a month because he wasn't 7.6.
Still won the round, though, right? Still.
No, he won second in the round.
He won
7-7 in the round.
Oh my goodness! So by 1/10
and he is mad for and Sam knows I'm telling the truth. He was mad for a month because he didn't tie that catch 7.6. You know,
Yeah.
He could have tied him in 13 flat and well, he won a little money in that round, but and still won the average, the saddle, and then all the other stuff, that he got.
Yeah. So we heard how you learned. How did you help Sean learn? How old was Sean when he picked up a rope and showed interest?
Oh, 4 or 5 years old. He used
Okay.
to rope a cat scratching dummy in the living room off of his rocking horse.
Okay.
And he'd run down there and flank that dummy and throw his hands up and tell his grandmother to come and untie him.
Good for him. Good
And
for
his
him.
grandmother told him to untie his own calves. He
Yeah.
said, "Daddy, don't."
There you go. There you go.
But bless his heart. I mean, I got custody of Sean when he was a little over a year old.
Mm-hmm.
And I rodeoed for a living back then. So that's all that boy knew. He grew up going to rodeos with me.
Mm-hmm.
I took him everywhere I went. He would sleep under the secretary's feet on the announcer stand during the slack.
Mm-hmm.
Had him a sleeping bag. He'd go up there and lay down on the announcer stand, That's how he grew up.
Yeah.
And
for our listeners, how many rodeos at that time were you going to a year?
when I had Sean, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I don't mean this to cut to any association or anybody. I left the IRA in '78 and went to the PRCA for 4 years. The fourth year I was in there, I had a chance to make the NFR, but I didn't make it. I was 4,000 or 5,000 out. But I figured I lost 8,000 that year. And I said, this is stupid. If I won that much money roping in the IRA, I'd have money. So I came back to the IRA, open rodeos, whatever. By the time I came back, they had all these other associations. Back when I was in the IRA before, they had the IRA, the RCA, and a couple little regional associations.
Yeah.
There wasn't one every 50 miles. So I joined all them little associations, drew me a circle on the map, and said, I'm going to make money. And I made money for the next 13 years. But I never made the finals again because I didn't go to enough IRA rodeos. Because like Sam will tell you, back in those days, if you didn't go to 100, 150 rodeos, you weren't going to make the finals.
The IFR.
IFR. Well,
Really?
the NFR was the same way. They finally went to limited entries because them guys was going to so many rodeos.
So let me make sure I understood this right. To qualify to the IFR, you had to compete at 100 to 150 rodeos a year, Alan?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
If you didn't, somebody else would.
Yeah. Okay.
The year Dexter beat me for the world, I went 226.
226 rodeos.
Yeah.
Wow. So was this your main income?
Yeah.
Rodeos? Were you working elsewhere during this time?
From 1982 to 1990, I had me a job there for a few years there at the city of Goodlettsville. Mm-hmm. Only reason I took that was I took Sean to Mother's Day out, and he said he wasn't never going back because the kids were stupid. I said, what do you mean? He said, don't none of them know how to play rodeo. I said, well, you need to learn how to do something else. He said, why? We don't do anything else. So I got me a job and slowed down a little bit there for a couple of years.
Okay.
And then I stayed with the city for about 8 years, and they told me I was overqualified for any good position, so I told them to stick it, and I left.
Oh, my. Okay.
But So, but I was going to anywhere from 50, 75 rodeos a year then, you know.
And still, were you able still to qualify for the IFR?
No, I never made the IFR again. Sean used to get mad at me. Daddy, if you went 30 more rodeos, you'd made the IFR. I said I didn't want to go to them other 30. They're too far from the house.
Okay.
I looked at it where if you won fourth place and lost money, I wasn't going to the rodeo.
I see.
You follow what I'm saying? I mean,
You bet.
back in the old days, Sam will tell you, when you're chasing points, you ain't worried about what it costs you. You want the points.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I've drove to New York to win $200, and it probably cost me $250 to go just to go.
Right. Right.
You know, and for that 13 years there, I didn't go nowhere. If I won a check, I was ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I picked the rodeos that way, and I made money that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the years that I was going hard in IRA, I made a little money, but about all it amounted to was I didn't owe nobody nothing. I had a little money in the bank when the year was over, and I'd buy me a new truck every year.
I see. Okay. And how many miles were you putting on back then?
You had to buy a new truck because your wore one out.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah. In 1976, I put 157,000 miles on a brand new truck in 11 months.
Holy cow. I mean, you're on the road full time, darn near. I mean, you're gone. That's more than just weekends, right? I mean, you're picking up midweek. You're doubling up on the weekends.
Well, I think Sam will tell you. In those days, we could go to Florida in December. The year starts December 1st. Mm-hmm. You go to Florida in December. You can stay down there, come out and go to finals and go back, because the Longhorns or nothing else started up till March or April back then. There wasn't hardly, but Florida was the only place to go. But you could go 20 rodeos in Florida before the other rodeos started up. And then by April, you could go to 3 a week in April. You could go to 3, 4 a week in May. June, you could start going to 5, maybe 6 some weeks. But back then, they had, like North Washington, Pennsylvania, 5, 6 performance rodeos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't have those anymore, with exception.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's 2 performances.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I could go to 110 rodeos today if I wanted to.
Right. So
and plus up here where Sean and me live, you can go to one nearly every day in July, but they don't have that many in June and August up here. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Those little one-day fair rodeos during the week.
Yeah.
But me and Dan Daly average 6.5 rodeos a week for 26 weeks.
Oh, 6.5 rodeos per week for 26 weeks.
Yeah, but the bad part is, or the funny part, I could go to all 6.5 of them rodeos for $200 a week.
Yeah.
Now, you try to do that today and see what it costs.
Really? That was how much it cost. Now, were you traveling with anybody back then?
Yeah, that's another thing I don't understand today. We had crews back then. I always had anywhere from 5, 7, 8 guys with me all the time.
Really? Okay.
You know, we split expenses and yada, yada. But entry fees was $20, $25.
Yeah.
Gas was 50 cents a gallon, 30 to 50 cents a gallon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, food, you could eat anywhere you wanted, a nice restaurant, $5, $6, you know, and you could eat at McDonald's or some fast food for $1, $2.
Yeah. And what would the average win be? Let's say you won.
Well, back then, those summer rodeos pay $250 to $350 to win them.
Mm-hmm.
So I win one rodeo a week. I'm ahead for the week.
I see. Okay.
All right. Now it costs you a minimum of $200 a rodeo if you're lucky.
To get there plus fees?
One event.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you go to 6 rodeos the same week, and them rodeos today pay between $500 and $650.
Mm-hmm.
So you win one rodeo, you're only halfway to breaking even by winning one rodeo.
Yeah.
You got to win 2 to even think about breaking even, and then win something at a third one to show a profit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like Sam putting on rodeos. I'm not sure when he started if he could, but I know years ago we put on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday rodeo. Friday paid for the rodeo. Saturday, Sunday was profit.
Okay.
In the 2000s, Friday and Saturday paid for the rodeo, and Sunday was the profit. Everything costs more.
So when you had the crew, and I love the conversation around the economics of it, the money, how you guys went down the road then. You had 5 to 7 in your crew, typically in a pickup with a topper. How were you guys traveling back then?
Okay, well, I had a truck just like I got now,
Uh-huh.
a 3/4 ton gas burner with a rollback camper on it, with a door in the back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
4 guys could sleep going down the road, 3 guys up front. 7 was the perfect crew.
Yeah.
And we had an inline trailer, 2-horse inline.
How many horses?
2 horses.
You were hauling 2, and you
Hauled
both.
Calf horse. I called a calf horse and a bulldogging horse.
Really? Okay.
Were both your horses?
I'm sorry. Yeah, both the horses belong to me.
Now you weren't dogging, but you could mount up folks, and it was part of your crew.
Well, I hate to say this, and I don't mean anything derogatory to today's contestants. I wasn't good enough to make the IFR bulldogging back in my day.
Yeah.
I might win the world today.
Okay. So you did some bulldogging. Did you?
Yeah. Well, like if I went to 100 rodeos, I probably didn't bulldog it, maybe 30 of them.
Okay.
I picked where I wanted, where I bulldogged, whether I liked the cattle or yada yada. You know what I'm saying. Some years, when I was in the PRCA, I won more money bulldogging than I did calf roping the first 3 years.
Really? Okay.
But my bulldogging horse, he kind of took the place of Lester. He paid my way. I had Dan Daly, Clarence LeBlanc, and Bud Hallman, and Franklin Pope. I don't know, all them guys made finals riding my horse all year.
Were they
paying me a fourth of what they won?
Were they in the crew? Were they hauling with you?
Yeah. I always had a big crew. In the 73, it was me and my brother, Woody Woodard, Herbie Church, Marlon Harris, a little bareback rider named. I had 4 bareback riders with me back then, and you could get up any rodeo in the country because they wanted them bareback riders. And I learned, Ronnie Hilton taught me that. He said, haul them little bull riders, horse riders, they don't take up no room and they don't ride your horse. And they buy gas.
Okay, yeah. Everybody was split even in the pot as far as putting money in the kitty.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I mean, it's like I said, Sam, he was not the next generation after me, but kind of after me.
Mm-hmm.
But his brother Mike rodeoed with me back in the 70s and all. Everybody back then had a crew. I mean, you could drive up to a rodeo and there'd be 3 rigs in the parking lot. That might be all the contestants. It'd be a full rodeo in them 3 trucks.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah,
and anywhere from 4 to 8 guys in a vehicle usually. And
I mean, I have hauled as many as 11, but I wouldn't recommend that.
Holy cow! In the same setup?
Yeah.
And I'm going to come back to Sam here in a moment. No hotel rooms, nothing fancy. That's where you slept, was in your pickup topper?
Yeah, you had to rotate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, most of the time. I mean, we got a motel room occasionally, but very seldom. Then if you got a room, you had to split the mattresses, put them on the floor for everybody to get in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you rotate drivers, or were you pretty limited on who could drive?
Well, that 157,000 miles, I probably drove 125 of it.
Okay.
Because my other crew members would get you lost.
You got any
maybe on purpose so they didn't have to drive.
Yeah.
Not that I know anything about that, but you know.
Well, I've been to 7 rodeos one week, and I had drove every mile since we left the house.
Yeah.
We were in Tiffin, Ohio on Saturday night. We had been to Kalamazoo, Michigan that afternoon. We were going to Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, which was 200 miles away, on Sunday on the same road. I had them 6 boys with me. I said, surely to God, y'all can drive 200 miles. It's midnight.
Yeah.
All you got to do is stay on 80. When you see the Bloomsburg sign, wake me up, and I'll tell you where the rodeo is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it. We got it. Don't worry about it. I go to sleep. Well, I'm exhausted. I wake up at 9 o'clock. We're sitting on the side of the road. And they're up front talking. Leroy Mason was with me that week. He said, Bud, just where the heck are we? He said, I don't know, but I think we're in West Virginia.
Oh, my. Oh, my.
What happened when they come across there to the Pennsylvania line, they took 76 south instead of staying on 80.
Oh, wow. Okay.
9 o'clock in the morning, I'm 50 miles further from the rodeo than I was at midnight the night before. And we made it.
You made it. My goodness, that's a bit out of your way. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy.
Well, I would tell this other one, but I don't want to talk bad about my friend.
Well, can you tell it without mentioning a friend's name?
All right, me and this boy went to Davie, Florida. Sam knows where Davie is. We were on our way home. I drove all the way to north of Atlanta because I didn't want him to have to drive through Atlanta. Even back in those days, Atlanta was a bummer. So I give him the truck. I tell him, stay on this road till you get to Chattanooga, follow the signs to Nashville. When you get to Nashville, you know where you're at. Okay, no problem. I crawl up in the camper, and I wake up the next morning, and I see a sign that says Valdosta, Georgia, 10 miles.
That's not on the way, is it?
I know. It was 350 miles south of where I give him the truck. We're going north.
Oh, my.
And I told him, I said, when you went back through Atlanta, you didn't figure out something was wrong? Nope. I thought, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
And so they wondered why I drove most of the time, you know.
And just to be fair, though, that was before GPS. You did it either by directions like you gave them, or you had a paper map, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I still got a map in my truck, but I use GPS now. I finally got attached to it.
Okay. So when you were going this hard, 6.5 rodeos per week for 26 weeks, talk a little bit about how you would plan. What was you were 1 or 2 weeks ahead, always knowing where you're headed, because you got to tighten these runs up to where they made sense, so you're not zigzagging all across the United States.
Well, back in those days, you went more where the money is than they do now. You know, you would drive by some back then to go to one that added, $500 back then instead of going to one that added 100 or 150.
Mm-hmm.
Now they don't. They won't drive by one to go to one because of the expense.
Mm-hmm.
Plus back then we just had Rodeo News, which was magazines. So they had to put the rodeos out pretty early. So we kind of plan our schedule, 2 or 3 weeks in advance.
Yeah. Yeah.
But people don't understand. If I went to 6 rodeos, I had to get on that phone with my rotor dial phone and enter 6 rodeos.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't just make one phone call and say, I want to enter this one, this one, this one, this one. You had to call this rodeo and enter. Then you had to call this rodeo and enter. And then you had to call this rodeo and enter. It was a little more complicated than it is now.
Yeah. And you had to enter rodeos while you were out traveling too, didn't you? I mean, to get...
Oh, yeah. You'd find a truck stop that had a bunch of phones, and everybody get on a phone and start calling.
Mm-hmm. And they allowed, once somebody got in, let's say you're going to Bloomington, Pennsylvania, like you talked about, once you got into the secretary that was running those books, that person could enter the entire crew in your truck, right?
Well, you could enter 7 people.
You could enter 7. Okay.
And once they got a hold of the secretary, if one of the other guys got them, they hand the phone to me.
I see.
And then I cheated in 1976. I had a telephone operator for a girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
She could enter you in rodeos, buddy.
Because she just broke into calls, or how did she?
No, she could not be the first call, but she could tie the line up and be the second call on every number. If you understand what I'm saying, she wouldn't break in. But if Sam's talking to the secretary, Okay, she will tie the line up. Nobody else can call it. She becomes the second call. She didn't break in.
I see.
I
Yeah.
mean, I had a few operators out on the road do that for me. They said, bless your heart, there's more than one of you. I said, no, there's 7 of us trying to get this number. She said, well, hang on, honey. 2 minutes, she'd have them.
Really?
You know.
Okay. Now, we hadn't heard this in all the stories. We hadn't heard this yet, but this makes sense, right?
This is news to me, and I wish I'd have known something about it, let me tell you.
Yeah. It would have determined who you dated, wouldn't it, Sam? Who you're
That's
supporting?
a loaded question.
I ain't going there, Sam. You're on your own.
Well, you're 17
Sarah.
years old. You're 17 years old.
Yeah. Well, and they were always named Sarah.
Okay.
The lady on the Mayberry show.
Yeah.
Sarah, can you put me through to, the rodeo secretary?
We've heard a lot of stories about calling from the truck stops and the phone banks and everything, Sam, but this is the first time that I've heard you could have an inside job, if you will. You could have somebody that could really help you. Man, that's pretty cool, Alan.
Good
well,
thinking.
I mean, Sam tell you, like I said, I haul all them rough stock riders. I call a rodeo anywhere in the country. Say I want to enter 4 bareback riders. Oh, yeah, we'll take you whatever night you want to come.
Yeah.
Put me in the calf roping.
Yeah.
You're on the waiting list. I said, draw out the bareback riders.
Oh,
Guess
wow.
what? You're not on the waiting list no more.
So you could use them as negotiating. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And
along to this day.
To this day.
To
To
this day.
And did you ever have to split up the crew? Meaning you're going to drop them somewhere, you're going on to something else, another place, and then bring the crew back together? Or were you able to hold the crew together pretty good?
There was a few times where we had to split up, for whatever reason. We were trying to make 5 rodeos one weekend, and the catch was getting up at just one rodeo Sunday afternoon. Well, I was the only one in the crew they let up Sunday afternoon because somebody else had entered me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see.
So I dropped my crew off at the rodeo they were going to Sunday night, and I drove up there Sunday afternoon and came back, picked them up, and roped Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Sunday afternoon, Sunday night rodeo about 100 miles apart.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a few other times we had to split up, but mostly if you got split up, it was like at the bigger rodeos where they drew positions. You didn't all draw up the same day. They didn't have a 4-man, 7-man buddy system back then.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And
you had to get along good with the secretaries too.
Right. Didn't want to, So the relationships there were very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Extremely important.
Yeah.
Extremely.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they took the entries. It's not like today where it's all computerized. And it kind of gave a new respect for contestants. And when I started putting on rodeo, it gave a whole new respect for secretaries because they did a lot of work back then.
Yeah.
A lot of work. And whether you know it or not, Alan has secretary rodeos.
Alan has secretaried?
Yep. Go ahead, Alan.
Oh, yeah. I was, at one time, I was the highest paid secretary in the IRA.
So tell us these stories.
Well, this probably should be in the Longhorn segment, but Nola Freeman was the secretary of all time back then,
Mm-hmm.
She worked for Longhorn, and when I worked for Longhorn, she found out that I was pretty sharp. So I started helping her. I started taking entries for her, doing trading, timing for her. She taught me, you don't know how much.
Mm-hmm.
And then she trained me. She said, this is what they need to pay you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
when I started secretarying, they pay me so much to judge a rodeo. And I said, I want you secretary. I said, how much you pay? And they tell me, I said, well, heck no, I ain't just secretarying your rodeo for less than what I get paid to judge it. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah. Okay.
I had one stock contractor one time. We was at the board meeting, and he said, I need a secretary, Alan. Will you secretary my rodeos? I said, you can't afford me.
Right.
And he asked me what I charged, and he couldn't afford me.
Right. Right.
But there's no way I would do one today.
Well, you know,
No way.
we had Miss Dan again on here a few weeks
Well, she's the best there is right now, and
bet.
I'm not saying she's not better than Nola, but Nola is a place in my heart from being a kid, you know.
Sure. And she had the same comments about probably the most underpaid job in the sport of professional rodeo. These secretaries, now they're not having to do the books like they did before, meaning not having to take the phone calls. But my goodness, the amount of time.
They have to have computers. They
Mm-hmm.
have to have printers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they work a day before the rodeo starts and a day after it's over.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the old days, it was kind of simple. You paid a $20 entry fee, and they take out 60 cents, send it to the office, and the rest of it you don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there wasn't no stock charges, there wasn't no office fee, there wasn't no CES money or
Mm-hmm.
central entry money. There wasn't no finals fees. There wasn't no local fees. You know, there's so much stuff to it now, and then all this paperwork you got to do. I ain't gonna do it. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. So when was the last time you secretaried a rodeo?
Probably 20 years ago.
20 years ago. And knowing what the workload is today, I'm going to put you on the spot. Knowing what the workload is today, what should let's take a rodeo that's maybe a three performance rodeo, Friday, Saturday, Sunday afternoon. Certainly we got the automated systems where you can call in and enter, or you can enter online or whatever, all the way through all the workload where you say, I'm done with that rodeo. What should that job pay, Alan? 3 performances.
Well, now you're going to get me in trouble if
I
answer
am.
that question.
I am. But you've done it. You have the perspective. You know what a pro rodeo official is getting paid. You know the money.
If they wanted me to do that,
yeah,
cost them $2,000.
$2,000 for the weekend for a 3 performance rodeo. Okay. And that's what I want to hear.
And that's a discount because Nola told me to charge $750 a day.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And was she getting it back then?
Well, probably not. But when I first started secretarying rodeos in the 80s and 90s for stock contractors, I was making $250 a perf back then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And judges were making $50, $75.
Yeah.
Nola, she got paid well, but she was worth it. Dana hopefully gets paid well because she's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I mean, first off, the whole context is these days a lot more money in the sport of rodeo. A lot more money's coming in, and everything's going up, right? Announcer fees, contract acts are all going up, and they should. They should. It's expensive to go up and down the road, but the talent pool is the talent pool. To have a good, qualified, experienced, no-nonsense rodeo secretary makes all the difference in the world. So,
oh, yeah.
I'm just, we've talked about this with Dana and some other folks, and boy, oh boy, yeah, this position needs to be looked at. And
I mean, I don't mean this ugly to anybody, but I worked some rodeos with some secretaries,
mm-hmm.
and they're so needy they drive you nuts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Alan, come to the announcer stand. Alan, come to the announcer stand. Alan, come to the announcer stand. What is the problem now?
Right. And the reason they were calling you is you were a pro rodeo official, right? So let's get into that a little bit. 17 years you judged at the International Finals Rodeo, which is the top of the top, right? That's the biggest rodeo, the biggest honor, the biggest rodeo of the year.
Yes, sir.
When did you start officiating? When did you start judging?
Goes back to the Longhorn days.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Rowe told me, I was working for him in 1973. He said, "You're judging Winston-Salem, North Carolina this week." I said, "No, I'm not."
Yeah.
He said, "Yes, you are."
Yeah.
I said, "No, I'm not. I've never judged the IRA rodeo in my life."
Yeah.
He said, "If I didn't think you could do it, I wouldn't hire you. You got it."
Okay.
So that's when I started. I tease everybody, I started at the top.
You did. I mean, this was what, a 3-day rodeo?
It was the Longhorns were the elite back
Yep.
then.
Yep. So
I did Winston-Salem, then I did 2 for him that fall, and from then on I'd do 2 in the spring, 2 in the fall. I might judge 1 or 2 more during the year if we didn't have a lot of one-day rodeos back then, because I'm competing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to miss roping just to judge.
Now, could you judge and rope? Were you able to do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No. So you just wouldn't flag, or you just wouldn't work the barrier in that event? Somebody would.
You had to get somebody to work the barrier for you.
Okay. And training? What kind of training officially were you given? This is how you judge. This is a mark out rule, because you were coming from the timed event side.
Well, yeah, but my brother was a rough stock rider, and they had a deal back then called the Tom Stovall Judging Handbook. And it had pictures. It showed you kind of like learning how to rope out of a book. I still use what I learned in that handbook today.
Really? Okay.
But I had done a few little open rodeos. I judged some open college rodeos around the house. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And Bobby knew I had, but I had never judged the IRA rodeo.
I see. So you had some experience before you did the Winston-Salem rodeo.
Yeah, and I had rode bareback horses and bulls a little bit when I was first started, but I figured out right quick they weren't for me.
Mm-hmm.
Bulls scared me too much, and bareback horses, when they came out with Houston riggings that tie yourself on, I wasn't going to tie myself on a bareback horse.
I see. Yep.
But plus having practice horses and cattle there at the house and guys come over and get on, I guess the word is I paid more attention to the other end of the arena than a lot of guys would.
Okay.
Well,
and hauling those rough stock riders.
And a lot of people, don't know that Alan's brother was also the rodeo coach for UT Martin.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And rode saddle broncs very well.
Really?
So
yeah, they just gave him the Pioneer Award.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So University of Tennessee Martin is where he was a rodeo coach.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean this to cut anybody, but Sam will back me up. If it wasn't for my brother, they wouldn't have a UT Martin rodeo team. Wouldn't be what it is today. He took them single-handed to the college national finals, the first team ever east of the Mississippi River to go to the thing. He took them single-handed. Then he won the all-national all-around title, and then he became the coach for 18 years.
I see.
And they won every year.
Okay, so let me back up here. So what I'm hearing is, as he went to UT Martin as a part of the rodeo team, as a competitor. He rode broncs, and what else did he do to win the all-around championship?
He rode broncs, bareback horses, rope calves, bulldog, and team ropes. He didn't ride bulls, and he was a really good bull rider. But he said bull riding made him so sore he couldn't do the other 5 events.
I see, 5 events. Wow.
And truth be known, he would argue with you, but I thought he was a better bareback rider than he was a saddle bronc rider.
Okay.
But he didn't like it.
And how many years did he coach at UT Martin?
I think it was 18 is what they said.
18 years. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Wow.
And in those 18 years, they won 17 regional championships, second one year.
So always a dominant force. Always.
Yeah, he said at the ceremony that the first year Martin went to Bozeman, Montana, they all were snickering. He said they never snickered again.
Yeah. That is so impressive.
With the Eastern team.
Was he there, Sam, when Tyler Waltz went, or was that after him?
It was after. Tyler was after him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was John Luthi was the coach when Tyler went. Outstanding individual. Just have all the most respect for him. I thought Dalen was going to go to school there. Of course, being a horse rider, he was very highly recruited.
Yeah.
And he went to down to Jeff's in Carthage, Texas, and which was Luthie's coach. Or Luthie was Jeff's coach at Fort Scott, Kansas at the time. So it all kind of ran together. He got the best of both worlds, I think, because Luthie coached Jeff, and Jeff had his own ways of doing things. So he kind of course, Dalen, he may be a little smarter than I was, but Luthie really tried to get him and offered him the world, and which everybody did because he could ride horses good,
right?
Let alone bull ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what is your brother's name?
Tony.
Tony. So Tony went to school, UT Martin, was a coach then there for 18 years. Is he? And was just inducted into what was the association he was just honored in?
I really ain't sure. They gave him the Pioneer Award at UT Martin.
Oh, okay. Pioneer Award at UT Martin. Well, congratulations to him. That is very neat. Did you guys, both of you, come up through high school rodeo?
We didn't have no high school rodeo back then.
Mm-hmm.
In Tennessee.
So how did they discover him for UT Martin?
Well, he'd been to the IFR a couple times before he ever went to school.
Oh, really?
They didn't have an age restriction back then.
I see.
When I went to college, I was 26, 27 years old.
Okay. Were you on a rodeo team? Where'd you go to school?
I went to Martin. They recruited me to replace my brother when he graduated,
mm-hmm.
which was a waste of time. Back then, you could only counted your 5 best rodeos. Everybody in every region counted their 5 best.
Yeah.
If I had a perfect rodeo, I could win 305 points in my 3 events.
Yeah.
Tony's worst rodeo for 3 years was 335 points. Those are the ones he didn't even count.
Yeah.
Now, how are you going to replace him?
Right. Right.
I mean, we did do something that Tony never did. We won every college rodeo they had the first year I went.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But we probably had the first real 6-man team. It wasn't 2 or 3 guys carrying everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
I see. And you were calf roping at that point? Only calf roping?
Yeah, I roped calves, bulldog, team rope.
Oh, you did all 3. So team roping even. So
yeah, you don't need telling people that.
So, did you team rope professionally at all?
Yeah, I mean, I would have made the IFR twice if they'd have took headers and heelers instead of just the top 15.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I finished like 23rd one year and 25th one year, but they never got down to me because everybody picked a partner that wasn't in the top 15 or top 20, you know.
Sure. Okay.
Which I'm not bad-mouthing them. I mean, hell, they probably pick better guys than me, but yeah, I team roped. Team roping to me has always been just kind of like playing golf. I like to do it, but I really don't. Well, Sam will tell you, I hate team roping.
You hate team roping? Officially.
It's not team roping or team ropers. It's the number of them. Back in the 90s, when I first started judging all the time, I'd have 120 teams on Saturday night. Now, that'll make you hate an event.
Wear you out.
So, you run 10 steers and bring them back. Run 10, 12 steers and bring them back. Run 10 or 12 steers and bring them back every Saturday night. And every time I bring them back, I would say, I hate team roping, and I've been doing it for 30 years. And, you know, if I don't say it, the people that's been around a while think I'm mad at them. But they know I don't really hate them. I just hate the numbers. There ain't enough now to hate.
Yeah. So in the 90s, so when did you officially shift? I know you were judging and calf roping at the same time or competing at the same time. When did you end your competing side of the business and say, I'm now officially a pro rodeo official?
Well, all through the 90s, I probably wouldn't do 5 rodeos that I wasn't judging. Actually compete at.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Just enter the rodeo to rope.
Yep.
I judged 35 rodeos a year, 40 sometimes, and then I might enter 4 or 5. 95 was the last year that I actually went off competing and judging, and I quit because my boy was a sophomore in high school, or fixed to start his sophomore year, and I was tired of sending him to the high school rodeos by himself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I said, I need to go with him. And so I started going to the high school rodeos with him, and that plus, with him and me both roping, I had to have 2 sets of horses, 2 sets of calves, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
When I quit, I just turned everything over to him.
You did. Okay.
He had got big enough then he could rope the same calves I could by then. But before that, I had to have little calves for him, so I just turned everything over to him.
So in 95 is when it sounds like you turned it over to him, and he was a sophomore. So he's getting busy in a high school rodeo. So no more pro rodeos for a few years, and you just supported his high school career.
Well, no, I still went to a lot of pro rodeos, but
okay.
I ended up judging. I ended up last 2 years he's in there. I ended up judging every one of the high school rodeos.
Oh, you did. Okay, so you're still actively judging in pro rodeo and high school rodeos at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was truly the end of competition. Did you ever try a comeback after 95?
No, I might enter 2 or 3 a year just for the heck of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the bad part was they got a rule that if you don't have 7 on Friday, they don't have to take no slack on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, them guys got smart. Alan's judging that rodeo. We just enter him. And that way they have to run slack.
I see.
So I would rope, but the problem was there wouldn't be nothing there to ride. I'd have to ride some high school kid's horse and everything else, but I never griped at them. I just go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And then one time they messed up and entered me one where I had something to ride, and they got there and 9-1s went in the rodeo. And they that was the last time they did that to me.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'm 71 years old. If I was able, I would rope every day right now at the house in the practice pen. I love to rope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just ain't physically, my body won't let me.
Now, can you still throw and catch, or is even that painful?
Well, I can still rope per se.
Yeah.
My problem is my right leg doesn't work right. I'm liable to fall off if I get to running on a horse.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I can't put a lot of pressure on that right stirrup like flagging. If I get in a lope, I have to grab the saddle horn and hold on.
Okay.
Judging. My legs just don't work right. I mean, half the time I have to have somebody help me on, because my body's just giving out.
Is that rodeo injuries over the years?
Well, yes and no. I had a bad knee back in the old days. Of course, I could have had a torn ACL for all I know. We didn't know about all this crap back then. Just put a knee brace on, kept going.
Mm-hmm.
And my knee bothers me a little, but I broke a heel in 1999. Horse stepped on my back of my heel and broke it. And they told me that foot would never be right, and they're right. It ain't. Mm-hmm. And the last 5 or 6 years, it's really gotten bad. Swells up, my leg swells up. I've been to doctors and run tests. I ain't got no blood clots or nothing. It's all from that heel.
Oh, wow. Okay. And you can still get a cowboy boot on that heel?
Yeah, but unless I have to ride a horse, I might not wear them.
Yeah. No, I can relate. I also broke my heel, called the calcaneus for anybody interested. I actually fell off the top of my motorhome, Alan, about 10 feet, landed on my heel, landed on my feet, and shattered it. So I totally can relate to that.
Well, they told me it would never be right.
Yeah.
And like I said, for all 15 years, after the first couple of years, for the next 10, 12, 15 years, I didn't even notice it.
Yeah.
And then about 5 or 6 years ago, my mobility got worse.
Okay. Okay.
Like I'd be stepping up on a horse and have trouble getting that leg over. And now it's, like I said, if the horse is very big, somebody's got to help me on him.
Okay. But you are still getting on. You are still judging.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's the schedule look like this year?
Well, I say I'm gonna cut back, but I got 49 right now.
49 rodeos?
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness. And are you going hard now, or when do you really kick off?
Well, let's see. I didn't have nothing this past week by choice.
Mm-hmm.
I did 5 in a row before that. I did 4 in Georgia and then came home and did 1 up here. Then I'm leaving tomorrow to go back to Georgia, and I got to do 3 down south and then come home and do another rodeo up here, then turn around and go back to Georgia for 2 weeks. And then I come home. I got 1 in Tennessee, and then I stay home till Labor Day up in this country.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So are you staying out all that time when you say you got two weeks in Georgia and that sort of thing? Are you living
That's
on
all I
the road?
make any money. That's all I make any money is good. The last time I went down there, I stayed a month.
You did? Okay.
I did Albany, Georgia. I did Brunswick, Georgia. I did Cumming, Georgia. Then I did Tennille, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Then I came home.
Wow.
And I got some friends down that way. Well, Brunswick, I stayed at Brunswick at the fairgrounds all week by myself. But I got a code to the gate. They don't care. They tell me to come in whenever I want to.
So how are you traveling these days? Pickup truck?
I got a camper. Yeah, I got
Camper?
a pickup truck, camper.
Okay. So you're comfortable. You got everything you need.
Yeah, just about.
Okay. 49 rodeos this year. My goodness.
I did 54 last
You
year. I
did-
said I was going to cut. Well, I did 42 3 years ago. Said that was too many. I wasn't going to do but 25 or 30, and I ended up doing 54 last year.
Wow. And you'll still probably pick up some throughout the season that's not already in your 49 rodeo count?
I'm afraid I will because I
Mhm.
got a bunch of open dates.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So you're traveling to all these places, Georgia, Florida, all these places basically coming out of Indianapolis. So you're what, 10 hours, 11
12
hours?
from some.
Yeah.
The furthest one I got is Brunswick, Georgia. It's 937 miles.
Holy cow. Okay.
I mean, it's kind of funny though. When I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, all them years, the IRA never sent me to Georgia. They never sent me,
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I moved to Indiana, and God dang, I think Pam wants me to come down there every week
Mm-hmm. Okay.
at the office.
And these and you bring up something that probably we've never talked about. You are pretty much directed to these rodeos by the IPRA. You're told this is your schedule.
not as much as you used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Used to, any rodeo that had $1,000, the office assigned them.
Mm-hmm.
Now they let the contractors put on their sanction form who they want, if they're a senior judge,
Mm-hmm.
and 9 times out of 10, that's who they'll get.
Mm-hmm.
If they ask for somebody, where years ago you could ask who you want, they sent who they thought they needed to send to it.
Okay. Okay. And a senior judge, how long have you been a senior judge?
Whenever they started it.
Okay. And what was required to become a senior judge, a senior rodeo official?
When they started this deal, Wayne Walker made me come out and go to the judging clinic at the finals that year.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said, if I make you one and you don't come to the clinic, they'll all think it's showing partiality. So I went out and went through the clinic again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was the only thing I had to do. But, I mean, I'm doing 40, 50 a year. I'd already judged the IFR 2 or 3 times then.
Mm-hmm. Is that just another rodeo, the IFR?
Well, yes and no. First time I did it, the rough stock, was 93. I'd flagged it before that, and to me it was just another rodeo flagging it. But when I had to do the rough stock, you could have drove an 8-penny nail up my rear. So they bucked the first horse, and then I thought, it's just another rodeo after that.
Okay.
I was a nervous wreck.
So the way they structured it, what I'm taking away, the way they structured it is they would have a number of pro rodeo, and you had to be a senior pro rodeo official to even judge the IFR, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you still do.
And they would say, okay, we're going to have a timed event set of judges and a set of rough stock set of judges, bulls, broncs, and barebacks, let's say.
Yeah. Well, they did away with the timed event, riding event judges about 03, 04, somewhere along there. Just when they went to 4 judges, they said the 4 judges that were picking to do the rough stock, they're supposed to be good enough to flag, and then they just let every event pick their flagman out of them 4 guys.
I see. Okay. And all the officials are always and have always been chosen by the contestants? How does that go?
No, they quit letting the contestants choose them back in the 80s.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah, board picks them now.
Okay, so the board determines who's going to officiate. And there is a director of pro rodeo officials, right, that works directly with the IPRA?
Well, we have a boss judge, that's Steve Ratchford.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what they call his title,
mm-hmm.
but he's the head of the judging program, puts on the clinics.
Okay.
He's not a bona fide director.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We're represented by the contract act director on the board.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And once you got in the flow of judging the rough stock that first year, 1993, nervous going in, but not a big deal after that, just let it roll?
Yeah.
Okay. And been part of any controversial calls? I mean, the mark out rule is always challenged, right? Been part of that at all? Any stories to share there?
Oh, I never had a problem at the finals. Anybody argued with me.
Mm-hmm.
But now the last 7 or 8 times I did the finals, we had 4 judges, and I didn't have nothing to do with the mark out. So, you know.
Okay.
But when I was the actual guy doing it, I never had a problem, other than one time somebody said they ain't marking Memphis and Merrimini out, and my other judge was with me, Clayton Makem. He said, well, they ain't missed them out.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, we don't have a quota.
Yeah, right. They're riding well. They're marking them out well. Okay.
But the only thing I will say this, and maybe I talk too much. Judging the IFR is different than judging a regular rodeo, and I think Sam will agree with me on this. I'm judging 15, supposedly the 15 best guys, boom, 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 in 10 or 12 minutes running at it.
Yep.
When I do a rodeo during the summertime, I'm lucky if I got 7 guys at a 3-performance rodeo in the bareback ride.
Right.
You know,
right.
So even though there, it's like I've told people, I said, yeah, there you can't pad it a little bit, make it look better, because you got to put what they got, because it's an average. You can't load somebody, or if you cheat somebody, you're messing up the average. You know.
Yep.
So that's one of the problems they have, getting enough quality people to do it. It's hard for a guy that judges a regular rodeo and he ain't ever seen over 3-4 horse riders at one rodeo, and then you run 10 or 15 at him in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I can see that. And then what's your opinion of the replay? We were down at the International Finals Rodeo this year, and they had the instant replay and the ability for the instant replay challenge. What are you thinking about that?
I don't know what I want to say.
No, give it to us.
Well, it was one re-riding, horse riding. The boy was right. He should have got one. They missed it. All the rest of them, I don't think they won their claim.
Right. But they were
you know what I'm saying?
But they were able to figure that out by watching the instant replay, that nope, the call was correct.
Yeah, but I mean, there was one deal. It never should have got that far.
Okay.
You know, guy didn't have a leg to stand on to start with. But it held up rodeo probably 10 minutes.
And if I'm not mistaken, you are charged dollar-wise. If you protest and you lose, you pay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. But I can see your point. Okay, so somebody claiming, if I've got the money, somebody claiming and it can hold up the performance. That makes sense. That makes sense. I can see how that would be. That's good.
Well, I mean, I'm not knocking the way they did it, but
Mhm.
they shouldn't, to my opinion, to speed things up, they need a separate guy to be the replay judge instead of the IFR judges having to go stick their head in the
I see.
curtain.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not bad mouthing it. I'm, financially, whatever, that have to hire somebody to do it. But that was the problem. They had to stop, walk out of the arena, and look at all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like I said, there was one call that was legit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I watched the rodeo. I'm sitting there, and I thought, well, he ain't gonna get no rewrite.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched the replay on the big screen. I said, by God, he double grabbed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which was declaring yourself.
Yep.
But I didn't notice it the first time.
I see. Yeah.
So he got his rewrite. It stood up, for him. And then the guy that missed the horse out, I saw the replay. I said, well, I don't think I could give it to him, and they didn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Was it close? Yes, but it was close, and it wasn't, as football says, irrefutable to change the call on the field.
Right. It's got to be pretty solid. You bet.
But no, I mean, there was, and then I don't know if Sam knows this. They don't check the breakaway. You can't protest breakaway calls.
You can't. I didn't know that.
No,
I did not know.
I didn't know that.
So
why not?
I don't know.
Okay.
So no instant replay challenge.
That could be the hardest thing to flag there is. If it
Well,
has
yeah,
a leg in it.
and I don't mean it that way. My boy's the flagman.
Right.
They put a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and a lot of these catches are happening 2 seconds or less. I mean, it's yeah.
Of course, Cassie said, "Long as he's flagging, we ain't got to worry about it."
Yeah. Well, and that's true, right? That's true.
But still, it's like me. Until I refused to do the team roping at the finals till they gave me a spotter. Flag it.
Spotter. What do you mean by that?
Guy down there at the other end checking head catches for you at the other end of the arena.
I see.
So that's where I worry. I ain't worried about a crossfire. I ain't worried about this and that. But if they run one down there a little ways and you can't get down there because you have to be in a certain place, you can't always see that head catch plain. It may look good and not be, and you let somebody get away with it. And that worried me. I don't want to give somebody nothing. I don't want to take nobody away from nobody.
Yeah.
And I didn't flag team roping for years till they put a spotter in, and I went back to flagging it.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. All these behind the scenes.
They got a spotter.
Yeah.
They've got a spotter in the breakaway roping, to check, where in case Sean can't see one side or something. But like that one girl that roped the calf, the rope came off and then went back on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was right. She's supposed to get a time. But they still arguing that today.
Oh, wow. And they no-timed her, or they did give her time?
No, he gave her time. He's supposed to.
Okay. Perfect.
But they're still arguing it today.
Oh, my.
People.
Okay.
Guys that went to the judging clinic, why he should have flagged that girl out, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But breakaway roping is the hardest event to flag there is. It used to be team roping. Now it's breakaway roping.
I don't know if it's so hard to flag, but when you do get something wrong, you got a lot of talking about it.
Well,
there's a lot of girls come and complain.
It happens so fast. But what gets everybody messed up in that breakaway roping is what happens after it breaks from the saddle horn.
Right.
If you're not watching that calf, it could be around his neck, and when it pops off the horn, it opens up, and he steps in, and then you look around, well, you come around the belly, no time. Well, no, it wasn't that way when it popped off the horn.
Oh, wow.
That's what I keep telling all them guys that want me to tell them how to flag. You need to be sitting where you don't never take your eyes off that calf. Where you can see the flag on the horn, but you watch that calf. When that rope flies up, you pop your flag, but you're still looking at that calf.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things can happen after.
I see. So you need to be able to have that in your peripheral vision, is what I'm hearing.
Right.
The rope and the end and the flag on the
Yeah,
rope.
like those guys that get halfway down the arena and they flag them as they go by them. That's fine for watching that flag, but you can't see the calf and the flag at the same time when you're sitting there.
Wow.
And what it does, Doug, when that rope pops off, it flies in the air and that opens that loop up.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
So they can step through it with one leg, and if it's not, not too often does it go around the body, but a lot of times they will step a foot in it after the fact, and it's tough. Yeah.
Oh,
it's very
goodness.
difficult.
I mean, that's what a spotter is for.
Yeah.
To watch that stuff. But Sam will tell you, and he'll agree with me on this, I think half the time you get the pickup man or somebody to be your spotter, they're not getting paid. They're not watching it as close as they ought to, and they're good, well-meaning people. I don't mean that ugly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But if they tell you it was illegal and you flag them out, you're the one that's liable, not them.
Right.
Or you're the one they're going to cuss if it was wrong. Because in this day and time, everybody's got it on their phone.
Yeah. Right. It's not like the old days. Right. No, understood.
And I'm not knocking, and I appreciate the guys that spot for me and help me out. And, you know what I'm saying? But some of you might well not even have them.
Right.
They mean well, but they're supposed to be spotting for you. You look up, they're at the end of the arena talking to somebody.
So just with all the pressure of everything, and there's a lot of money always on the line, somebody's livelihood, somebody's making money or not making money this weekend at this particular rodeo. Is it fun to judge? Is it just super high pressure all the time?
Not unless you have certain contestants there.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some contestants, and a lot of them are friends of mine, but I just assume they never come to rodeo I'm judging because they put pressure on you, whining and complaining and nitpicking about everything.
Okay. And I could see that. And, I've talked to people that have judged and said, man, I did it once. I'm not doing it again. And there's controversies and complaints and everything you're talking about. So let me just ask this. Why in the world then, Alan, do you do it?
Man, I don't know how to do nothing else.
There must be some enjoyment and there must be something there for you.
Well, it's like my daughter-in-law told me. She wants me to slow down, but she don't want me to quit because she said, if you quit, you'll die.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Out of boredom.
Okay.
You've been doing it all your life. All your friends are at the rodeos. You have no social life other than my little granddaughters, when I'm not at a rodeo. She said, if you don't go to them rodeos, you'll be bored to death. And I've seen a lot of guys retire and out of boredom, they didn't live very long.
Yeah. So this is keeping you active. This is keeping you in the game. Not only the game of rodeo, but the game of life, it sounds like.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, Josh Krager, he wanted me to get to 5,000 rodeos. I told him I didn't have 10 years of 50 left in me, but I may have.
So how many, so when you say 5,000 rodeos, that's competing, that's judging, that's everything?
Yeah.
What's your count? Do you know?
According to Josh Krager, and he ain't too far off, he added this up for me about 3 years ago.
Uh-huh.
The one I'm going to this weekend will be my 4,654th one.
Wow. Now you're counting rodeos, not performances.
Rodeos.
Oh man. So if you do performances, holy cow, you're 9,000 plus performances. 9,000 times.
Probably more than that.
Yeah,
so
right.
Back in the old days, all them Longhorns was like 4 performances, and I spent a lot of time at all of them.
Plus slack performances, right? At 2:00 in the morning.
Well, that's counting slack. 3 performances in slack.
Okay.
But,
and
like I said, Josh Berbick-Ryder from over at home, he won the world 4 times, but he asked me one time, he said, how many rodeos you been to? I said, I don't know. So he's sitting there with a pencil piece of paper, and he said, how many did you go to the first year? How many did you go to this year? How many did you go to? Of course, Sam will tell you I went to like 805 years.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You know, it ain't hard to have a bunch when you're going to that many, but hell, I go to anywhere from 50 to 75 every year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not now. Some of them I don't compete, and I may get to 5,000, but I will be honest with you, it'll be hauling my granddaughters to rodeos. It won't be judging.
Okay. So let's
I don't think I've got that many left in me.
Okay. Okay. So let's go there. You were competing hard, and in the mid-90s, you said, I need to step back. I need to help Sean through the high school rodeo, get his career. I'm sorry, mid-90s, 1995. We got to get him. We got to support him and his efforts in the high school rodeo. You've got 3 granddaughters, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All riding horses.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And I know you've got Lily, who quite an outstanding softball player at 16.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And what did you say? How many? 5 strikeouts in her career or something crazy like that?
She struck out 5 times in the last 7 years.
5 times. So as a batter, she struck out 5 times in 7 years.
Yeah, and she plays year round on travel teams and stuff.
Okay. Okay.
Now she don't get a hit every time, but she puts the bat on the ball.
Wow. So she's on base a high percentage of the time.
Yeah, right now, playing high school this year, she's batting probably right at 700, but she's got a 900 on base percentage.
Holy cow. So, okay. So 700 and 700 on hits and so forth, and another 200 on walks.
Yeah, well, she's been walks or errors. She got on a couple of errors.
Yeah.
And then she got hit 3 times this year already.
Good golly.
By pitches.
Okay. And that's an incredible batting average. Holy cow. 700 is incredible. And what position does she play?
Well, she is a catcher per se, but last year on the high school team, when she's a freshman, she played right field. This year she was playing center field, but the last 2 games they've let her catch.
Okay.
Which I don't know if that's going to last or not, because the other little girl that catches is a senior, and she's a all right ball player. I mean, I'm biased. I think Lily's a better catcher, but that's grandpa's talk,
Sure.
But as long as Lily's playing with that, they need her bat.
Okay. Yeah. So this is her, and she has a high school ball
right now.
Sophomore. And when's the softball season kick off?
Oh, she's playing right now.
High school?
Yeah, she's playing right now. She's done played 4 or 5 games.
High school already. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And is she still on traveling teams?
Well, they can't be on one during school ball
season. Softball season. Okay.
So I don't know if she'll go back. Well, yeah, because she's going to the World Tournament in July, so that's some travel team. That may be the one she was on this winter. I don't know.
Where is the World Tournament held?
I don't know.
My goodness.
I ain't going.
World Tournament.
I got rodeos.
You got rodeos. You got 49 rodeos you got to get to. And colleges are interested in taking a look at her with that kind of batting average and, good golly, moving into a catcher position that really directs the whole team when you think about it.
Yeah, she's had inquiries. They can't offer nothing official till she's a junior. But she's got letters from Louisville, Kentucky, Purdue, Indiana State, Iowa, Pitt. Tennessee's reached out to her, and about 10 or 12 smaller colleges.
Yeah. And Oklahoma, are they showing interest?
Well, I don't know, but she told them it was a waste of time.
Why is that?
I asked her, I said, Lily, why don't you want to go? For a long time, she wanted to go to Alabama.
Yeah.
And I said, Lily, what about Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Grandpa, I am not going to Oklahoma. They were mean to my daddy when he won the world, and I am not going out there.
Okay.
I said, she holds a grudge.
Yeah. Well, and there's a story going around, and this is probably 20 years old now at this point. Some guy was announcing a rodeo up in Benton, Pennsylvania, And your son Sean comes in, and I think a 13 might have been winning the rodeo. And this is a big pen. And he comes in, I don't know, probably a Saturday night rodeo, whatever it was. It was single go back then, only one rodeo, and I believe he showed up and cooked it. And I mean, he turned in a blazing 8-1 and set the arena record at that point. And the story goes that the announcer said he was from Oklahoma. And it sounds like that was an offensive thing to say, that you shouldn't say that. So what exactly, is there truth to that story about Benton, Pennsylvania?
Ask Sam, he's sitting there.
Don't get me in the middle of it.
Do you remember that, Sam? You probably would have looked at the announcer pretty crosswise and said, wait a minute, hold on. He's not an Oklahoma cowboy.
To tell you the truth,
Go ahead, Alan.
I wasn't there. And to be honest with you, Sam's the one told me about it more than Sean.
Oh, okay.
But the announcer in question was horseback.
Oh, okay.
So Sean's sitting out there in the arena waiting for him to untie his calf, and Sam said he hollered at the announcer to come over there. The announcer rides over, and he says, I am not now, nor have I ever been from the state of Oklahoma. That is an insult to me and my family.
So two things happened. Number one, the announcer was wrong. He wasn't from Oklahoma. At the time, he was Tennessee, or was he Indiana?
Technically, he was in Indiana, but he told the announcer he was from Goodlettsville, Tennessee.
Okay, Goodlettsville, Tennessee. Okay, perfect. And what is the offense? Why is it an insult for Sean Coleman or any Coleman to be announced as being from Oklahoma?
Well, even back in the 70s when me and Dexter were nip and tuck for the world, the Okies give me a hard time. They didn't like somebody who wasn't from Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas beating them. Not as bad as when Sean came along, but it was still some of it back then. But when Sean come along, you can't believe it. They cheat for that boy. He don't rope that good. You know, yeah. You know, because he was the first guy from Mississippi River ever to win the calf roping in the IRA.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they did not like, you know, I mean, I ain't bad mouthing Okies, but, you know, ain't nobody as good as them.
Yeah.
Ain't no way.
So what you're telling me is Sean Coleman is definitely not from Coleman, Oklahoma.
No.
That might have been where the announcer got messed up.
Coleman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Little town, southeast Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's like when I was on the board, Kay used to say she's going to get me an apartment and move me to Oklahoma. I said, no, you ain't.
Not going to happen. So are the grandkids headed towards Little Britches High School rodeo?
Well, the two oldest ones, junior rodeo. Lily junior rodeo, she's got probably 45, 50 belt buckles.
Oh, wow.
And she quit when she was 10 just to play softball all the time.
Okay. So she had to make a decision. Yeah.
The middle one, she's got probably 35, but she quit after they did away with her age group. The Junior Rodeo Association affiliated with Little Britches, and they did away with the 8, 9, and 10-year-old girls.
Yeah.
And I told them, my 8-year-old ain't competing against 13-year-olds in the goat tying and the breakaway rope.
Yeah.
You know, it ain't right, because Junior Rodeo had 3 divisions. I'm not bad about Little Britch, but Little Britch only got 2. You know.
Okay.
It didn't affect Lily. I mean, she won everything that she won. She'd have won if she'd have been in the senior division when she was 8, 9, and 10, but she had a super pony.
Yeah.
You know, Clara, she had to work at everything she did, but Clara's a 2-time miniature world champion breakaway roper.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, the middle one, she's won that international miniature deal they used to have at the IFR. They don't have it there now. They have it at Cloverdale.
Oh, okay.
She's won it the last 2 years.
Now, Cloverdale, Oklahoma, Cloverdale, Indiana.
No, Cloverdale, Illinois.
Oh, Illinois.
Not Cloverdale, Gifford, Gordyville.
Gordyville, Illinois.
Yeah.
Okay. So when are you going to have to take another break from pro rodeo officiating to haul these kids down the road? What are you looking at?
I don't know. Clara, I'm going to have to I'll haul her with me most of the summer. I'm going to enter her this year. She's just 13, but I'm going to enter her.
IPRA shows.
Yeah, I'll enter her, get her a youth card and just enter her. I mean, if she wins, she wins. If she don't, she don't, but it'll be good for her. Lily rope's good enough to win.
Okay.
I ain't worried about that, but she's not that interested right now. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So she's breakaway roper and Clara's breakaway roper as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that's what, if we get out on the road, that's what we'll see her competing in. Is she any of the kids going to the IFYR, Alan?
Lily's the only one old enough, and I don't think she's going this year. She talked about going next year.
Okay.
She just bought her a horse.
She did. What'd she get?
Yeah. But he won't be ready for her to really haul till next year. So
okay.
She might go. Now, Clara, I think, might be eligible next year. She goes every year. My middle one, she goes with her daddy every year. But she's not old enough to enter it yet.
Because Sean judges the IFYR.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's not old enough to enter it yet. So as soon as she's old enough, she wants to enter, so I'm sure she will. She's just in the 7th grade.
Yeah. Okay.
So she's got 2 more years before she's even eligible to go.
Okay. Understood. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We have covered a lot of ground today, and I do really appreciate this. Final question, Alan.
All right.
Okay, final question. You've been down the road. Oh, my goodness. You're going to be pressing 5,000 rodeos here in not too long. Both in the competitive side, the practice pen, my goodness, the number of loops that you have thrown, the number of rodeos that you have judged. What's your advice for a young person that says, I want to get out in the world, I want to be a roper or a bulldogger or a bronc rider? What's your advice?
Well, I hate to say this, but most of the kids today, and Sam may agree with me, they ain't got no heart. They ain't got no try.
Okay.
I mean, I grew up, learned out of a book. I wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And everybody told me I'd never make it because I wasn't from Oklahoma or Texas. I never listened to that negativity. I kept pushing forward, and I finally made it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying I'm special, but I don't think kids today have that much try.
Mm-hmm.
They,
mm-hmm.
If they lose a little bit, they're done. They go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do it, you get out of it what you put in. If you want to do it, you need to get out there and work at it and be the best you can be. And don't let nobody tell you can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Be the best you can be and put the effort into it. Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not knocking kids, but they like the kids that come rope with us. They don't put out the effort mm-hmm. that Sean did or I did or I know Sam did. Sam's boys did. Them boys put out some effort. Mm-hmm. They worked at it to get to where they were. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these kids today, they just do it,
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But then they can't understand why they don't win. Well, they don't work at it. They don't have as Dennis Morris would say, they don't have the heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, this has been great, absolutely great. And on another conversation, we are going to, with you, Alan, we're going to dig deep into Longhorn Rodeo and your experiences there from the beginning to all the way up through the process. So, appreciate you coming on today. Any final words, Alan, or anything we didn't ask that you'd like to share?
No, not really. Not that I know of. I mean,
okay.
I just hope I wasn't too mouthy.
No, yeah, I think you were perfect. I think you took us to a lot of cool places. Sam, any final thoughts?
Well, I just want to thank Alan for coming on and discussing this with us. This is part of stories that won't get told if it doesn't get put out there. And I just appreciate him to come and let us know some things that I didn't know. So it's really good.
You bet. Excellent. So good day, Alan. Thank you for being on the show, as Sam said.
You bet.
All right, man. And we hope that you enjoyed this episode of Beyond the Chutes with Mr. Alan Coleman, pro rodeo cowboy, calf roper, steer wrestler, team roper, pro rodeo official, pushing 5,000 rodeos. An amazing number, an amazing record. And to make your listening easier, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Search for Beyond the Chutes and follow us. Like us, give us comments, let us hear you. You know, the biggest thing you can do, the biggest thing that helps these stories get out is just talk to somebody and tell them about what you're listening to, and do share the episode, point them at the episode, and see if there isn't a way we can get these stories out there in the world. And a reminder, check out our Beyond the Chutes Facebook page and click and follow us. Leave us comments. We love getting the comments, and we do our best to respond to every comment that you put out there. And again, thank you to Parasite Systems for their support with our podcast. Parasite System is a push-button parasitic diagnostic system for pasture animals, your horses, your cattle, your goats, your sheep, your chickens, and for your companion animals, your dogs and your cats. You can find them at parasitesystems.com. And we encourage you to get your animals tested. We say test, don't treat. Let's find out exactly what parasites your animal is facing. And to do that, you can go online and order your mail-in test kits. And we've had several of our guests that have done this, and the results have been great as they've come back. Now they have a better picture of how to properly treat their animals. And remember, as you drive these miles this rodeo season, every mile that you are driving, that horse is right behind you and riding. So get your animals checked. You can do that at parasitesystems.com. And we've got a mail-in coupon, or a coupon you can use, BTC023, to get 50% off your testing kits. So do check them out at parasitesystems.com. And this is Beyond the Chutes with
Sam Swearingen
and
Alan Coleman.
and this is Doug Simcox. Thank you for listening.